Hey everybody, Arnaldo Hoffman here of Gear It First. I'm here with two of my new friends, the Hypno series from Blizzard Lighting. If you've seen some of the live videos that I do from my personal Facebook channel, a lot of you have asked questions, hey, well, how have they worked for you? Do you like them? Can you tell us about them? So that's what I'm here to do. I want to introduce you to my two friends, and there's two different kinds here. First, we've got the Hypno Beam, and we've got the Hypno Spot. Hypno Spot, who's clearly a little camera shy. Guy, hold on a second. Do you mind? We're trying to do a review. Could you just look at the camera for me? What do you mean, no? Well, at least you're well behaved, right? This is what I get for doing reviews from other manufacturers. Oh, now suddenly we want to, look at the camera. I know a lot of you guys aren't used to me doing reviews from different manufacturers and all that, but it's been a huge lighting request, and I gotta be honest with you, I have really enjoyed working with the Hypno Spot and the Hypno Beam.
Bruh.
No, could you not blind the camera? Stop it! We're trying to do a review, don't you dare! I promise you that they are really well-behaved lights, despite the fact that they've got a lot of attitude going on. No, don't you dare look at me. No. Let's go ahead and try to do the best job that I can doing a review on these awesome lights from Gear It First. So the very first thing that I was asked when I first did the live stream, just showing how I was programming these, is why? Why did I go for a moving head with the rings and stuff in it? It actually came out of a necessity. With 4 schools only, the school dance side of my company, one of the most popular themes that the schools ask is Alice in Wonderland. And we always do the Treasure Cap projection, but we want to try something different. And we thought, how cool would it be if somebody made a moving head that looked like an eye? And originally I saw the Hypno Beam, like, that's perfect. I can create, with just like the outer ring and the center LED, I can create an eye effect. And I can go back and forth between the 2 rings. And then I saw what Blizzard did with a whole bunch of these, and it was so cool. So I'm like, you know what? Let's give these a shot. So let's go ahead and, gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind, lights straight ahead. Thank you very much. Let's go and look at the differences between both. One of them obviously has the 3 rings and the other one has the 2 rings on them. But what's really cool is the center part. Now, on the beam, you have an 8-degree, 60-watt RGBW. Now, if you've seen my videos, you know that I always say wattage is not a measurement of brightness. So we're not gonna say 60 watts, how bright is that? Because we don't know. What you actually want to look at, not just with these lights, but with any lights from any lighting manufacturer, are your photometrics, your lux. How bright is this from this far, and from this far? And I can tell you that I've been able to shoot over 100 feet and it's still going to show. It's super bright. Part of the reason is, again, you do have a bright 60-watt LED source. But even though it says 60 watt, the most important part is that it's only 60 watts. So that means that I can put several of these lights together without tripping a circuit, which is great. On this side over here, now this is the Hypno Spot. The Hypno Spot is a 4.7 degree versus the 8 degree, and that is using a 30-watt LED source. So 2 questions come to mind is, if this is only 4.7 and this is 8 degrees, why is this the spot and this is the beam? And the reason is because this does gobos. You've got gobos and you also have the color wheel, whereas this is just single LED RGBW. That's the big difference. The other part of that lights to look at, and the main difference, are pretty much the independently controlled rings. So if you look over here, we've got the RGB LEDs, or rings, excuse me. And what's really cool about these is that on camera, you can't even see the individual, even in person, you can't see the individual LEDs. It just looks like one nice fluid ring. The Hypno Spot has 3 individually controlled rings, whereas the Hypno Beam has 2 of them, is simply because we've got a bigger aperture here due to the ACL type lens. Now, if we look on the rings here, they are individually controlled, but you can also do some really cool macros. And these are just pure eye candy. If you had told me 4 or 5 years ago that I'd be looking at a light with rings in it that was strictly eye candy, that you would look at and be like, ooh, pretty, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. But as I've grown personally as a lighting designer, as my company has grown with its individual designs, we've done moving heads on the stage, at eye level, and even only a few feet up in the air. And it's really cool that when we shut off the main beam, because maybe we're just using our floods, that I can still utilize the moving heads to create eye candy. Imagine if you had a whole matrix of these behind the DJ without even using that center spot, just using the rings, and you can create some really cool effects. But now you add that beam or that spot effect and just boom, you know, with or without haze, it's just phenomenal. Now, other important thing, and most important thing for me when it comes to moving heads, I'm not worried about personally how quiet they are. Although you can tell they are fairly quiet, but it's how smooth can they be. I want 8/16 bit, meaning that you can choose back and forth between, but in reality, 16-bit. That 1/6 is the most important part. Now what that means is that the light can go pretty fast, and right there, without losing tracking, which is really important. But if I want to slow it down, I don't want a jittery movement. Now look how smooth that is. I mean, it's ridiculous. Now this is done two ways. You obviously slow your DMX value down, but there's also a pan and tilt speed. Because when you slow down DMX, all you're doing is slow down the steps. So if you tell a light to go, if the step of one light is here, and the step of the other light is here, it goes 1, 2, 1, 2. And if you slow it down, it's like 1, 2, 1, and that's why you get that jerky movement. The way you stop that is by adding more DMX steps. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But now to go from here to here, you suddenly have 20 steps to get a nice slow movement. You don't need to do that when you have a light that has that pan and tilt speed. So now I can still have 1, 2, there it is, and that speed function tells it to go from here to here, either faster or slower. This is very important because some lights don't have that, some do. If you really want control of nice, smooth movement, especially if you're using them for important productions like weddings, any theatrical grade productions, or anything where precision movement counts, that speed fader is very important. Let's go back. Lights. Park out on there for me real quick. Thank you very much. The other important thing that we have is feedback sensitivity. Now, feedback means that if I have these up on the stage and some jerk moves it, they go right back to where they belong without losing the position. And go here, and it's like, nope. Right there, nothing. Now, Kith. I guess not. It's awesome. But let's talk now about the quality of the lights themselves. If you look in the back here, I'm gonna move you if you don't mind. Thank you very much. On the back, all PowerCon in and out. Now this is a very affordably priced moving head. And usually affordably priced moving heads means that PowerCon may or may not be a thing, let alone PowerCon linking. Now you've heard me, if you've seen me review different lights or talk about lights in general, I always talk about why does this not have PowerCon linking or IEC linking or any kind of linking of any kind. Blizzard was able to cram it in true Hispanic fashion. They were able to cram all this in one small area. This is not a very big light. You can see here my hands are not that big anyways to begin with, and easily they were able to do obviously DMX in and out, but the PowerCon in and out. In the front, we've got the display, and in the back are the heat sinks. Now the heat sinks for both lights are exactly the same. Now where Blizzard design is a little bit different than other lighting manufacturers is that there is no rear cover. Okay, the whole cover is the heat sink. Different lighting manufacturers have different approaches, and a lot of them will just have the entire light encased, and then you just have the fan and the heatsink towards the back. Blizzard created the entire back of the light to be a giant heatsink. Theoretically, this means that your light is going to be cooler throughout the process because LED does emit heat. It used to be back in the day, oh, LED emits no heat. Well, comparatively speaking, it doesn't. But now that LED is high powered, oh boy, they do emit some heat. Not to mention, there's other magical little components in there. But by having this entire part, the heat is going to disperse a lot faster, and internally, your light should be cooler, which means your light should last a lot longer. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some videos from a wedding that I did. I used these for a wedding, and the first part I did with haze, the second part was without haze. Let's take a look.
1, 2, 3, lighting!
These are pretty wicked. Now, one of the modifications that I thought about doing is just taking a diffusion lens and just pasting it. Could you guys park yourselves? Lights? Thank you very much. It's taking a diffusion lens and just kind of pasting it right there, so this becomes almost a little bit of a wash. Tried it. It actually looked pretty cool. And if you have an event where you don't have haze and you want to use this as a wash, try that. You'll get some cool effects out of it. All right, you guys can do your dancing and magic and all that. Essentially, it's a fantastic light. It's not a big moving head, but it does give you big output. More importantly, it gives you a unique output. It's something you can use with or without haze. It's something that you don't have to have on the entire time for it to look cool. If you have a complete show, and by that I mean your floodlights, and then you've got your movers, maybe a centerpiece, you don't want to run all your lights at the same time. So sometimes these lights will stay parked. But now, I can turn off the actual projection out of it, whether it's the beam or the spot, and just have the rings running and just create something that looks different, that looks unique. If you are using these, for example, for a nightclub, the rings themselves, they are not super bright because they're just basic SMD LEDs, but I bet you that if you were to do an entire wall or ceiling of these at a nightclub and you had these on, you would throw some light out on the dance floor, but you would have a really unique effect. So this isn't really just for DJs or mobile entertainers. This definitely could be used for nightclubs or any kind of entertainment venue. The rings are just really cool. I've enjoyed playing with them. I've enjoyed integrating them with other technologies such as RKS LED mapper and just doing some cool and unique things with these guys. But most importantly, they are affordably priced. So, my name's Arnaldo Offerman of Gear It First, showing you the Blizzard Hypno Spot and the Hypno Beam, two absolutely amazing lights. Any questions, comments, or anything like that, you know what to do. Leave them in the comment below. Pound that thumbs up, and most importantly, subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I promise you, it's a darn good feeling. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless. For just a few $100s, you too could adopt one of these beautiful lights to come home with you and become part of your family. They're just so excited. Don't leave them locked up here. Every single day, hundreds of lights go alone, without family, without gigs. Go to IDJNOW.com and use the code Blizzard10, that's Blizzard10, and you too can take one of these beautiful lights with you at a discounted rate. Don't delay. Every single moment that you don't adopt one of these Hypno beams, they are here, out there, waiting for you, waiting for your gigs, waiting for some DMX input on how to live, how to love, how to operate.